2023 meeting of the York City Zoning Hearing Board. 3 or 4 minutes late because I had a bright idea to try with my laptop to help me hear better. And the first attempt of the Wright brothers, as you know, didn't go very well, and neither did mine. So I'm going to have to implore, hey Eric, I'm going to have to implore everyone to please speak. Don't swallow the microphone, but 2 or 3 or 4 inches from it. And all people are not created equal on speaking voices. That's just the way it is. But I'll try my best, and if I have to ask you to repeat, it may mean speak up a little bit more too. I was going to say pretend you're still down on the farm and it's 200 feet from the house to the barn and you don't want to have to walk down there to get Pop to come in for supper. Okay, let me introduce who we are. I think most of you have already dealt with our great zoning officer, Monty McMillian, over there at the city table. Here at this table, from your left is Sina Jenkins and Adam Nugent, and I'm entitled to a senior moment now and then. Nick Holman, of course. He's, I guess, just about our newest member.
3 years ago, 4 years ago.
You what?
I said I'm the new guy 3 or 4 years ago.
Right, right. And Elsbeth Bupp. I won't have to remember your name long.
I know.
It's their last meeting with us. You folks gave her a promotion. And I'm Franklin Williams, currently chair of the board, and Andy Harold is our solicitor, and Karen Brown is our stenographer.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might, I'd just like to introduce one of our new associates at MPL Law Firm, Tom Lang, seated all the way in the back right. He's joining us tonight. You might see him sitting up here from time to time. Tom just recently passed the bar exam, so congratulations to Tom. We're happy to have him, and just wanted to introduce him here tonight.
Thank you. Welcome. And I'm wearing this cap because I just recently had 2 cataracts removed, and these bright lights are just killing me. So my good old York College baseball cap came off the shelf. Let me tell you just a little bit about how we operate. I know that you met, I think, Monday a week ago with the Planning Commission, and they discussed your case, learned a lot about it, and they recommend to us, and we value their recommendation as we value the recommendation of the planning staff, planning and zoning staff. But we do make up our own minds. We tend to agree with their advice a good bit of the time, but once in a while not. We will, when our solicitor calls your case, whoever is presenting it, leading the presentation of it, I should say, will come to the podium and make the presentation. I was going to ask everyone, we have 5 cases, and I realize that our leadoff case is one of the most wonderful cases that we will have heard in recent years. Yeah, I do believe that, but please try it to be brief. After you make your presentation, and perhaps during, I mean, if a member of the board thinks of something that they need you to clarify, it's better done at the time perhaps, and we will try not to do it often, but we may interrupt on occasion. And when we have had our turn after your presentation, is our time to ask questions, ask you to elaborate on something or explain something further. We will then go to the audience and ask if anyone has any questions for the applicant. And if no one has any questions, we will ask if anyone in the audience has any testimony to give on the case. And then we will ask the spokesperson for the applicant if they have anything to add after all, have anything to sum up. And we will close the case and we will deliberate right here in front of you. I've never been a big fan of the secret meeting room. You deserve to hear our discussion. And but at that time, the case is closed, and we will deliberate and we will make decisions on whatever variances or special exception you are requesting. And I think I've pretty well summed up, except to ask everyone to please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you give here this evening will be the truth and the whole truth? Thank you. Let the record reflect that everyone present was duly sworn. And Andy, would you read in our first case, which is, we are taking this case out of order because it was continued, partly because it was continued from last month, and also because several people involved have come down from Harrisburg, and it seems only fair to let them go first. Besides, it's a very interesting case, I can tell you. Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case, as you said this evening, is case number 52-2023-Z-V. The applicant is Harrisburg University of 326 Market Street, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The owner of the subject property is St. John's Episcopal Church of 140 North Beaver Street, York, Pennsylvania. The subject property is located at 129 North Beaver Street, which address is located in the Central Business District, the Central Business Zoning District of the City of York. Applicant seeks a variance to permit a controlled environment agriculture use. Such a use is not a use provided for in the current City of York zoning ordinance. The application was reviewed by the planning staff of the City of York. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on December 11th, 2023. By way of unanimous vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variance. The record before the board this evening consists of the application itself, the deed to the subject property, a 4-page zoning narrative, an October 3rd letter from Zoning Officer McMillian, 10 pages of site plans from Chris Dawson Architects, and a two-page overview summary of Harrisburg University.
Thank you. Mr. Minnick.
Good evening. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you hearing our case tonight, and we do agree that it is one of the most interesting, exciting projects. My office for law practice has been downtown for 29 years, and it's a privilege that we'll have this in the neighborhood. It is an urban farm. It is a retail space. There is an educational component, and there is a research component. It is a one-of-a-kind project. It will bring something to the community that we have never had before. And Harrisburg University has been approaching this very, very thoughtfully in terms of outreach in the community, making sure that our efforts here are additive to the community and do not adversely impact other important constituencies in the community. We were very pleased to get favorable reviews, as mentioned by the planning staff and the planning commission. At that presentation, we had 4 witnesses. As painful as it is for me to try to be brief, being a lawyer, we have now narrowed it to 2 witnesses. We want to be respectful of your time and schedule. In terms of our witnesses tonight, we have Ryan Riley, who is Vice President of Advancement at Harrisburg University. He's going to give you a little bit of background about the university and an overview of the project. And then our second witness will be Tom Englerth. Tom is the design professional. He's going to discuss the application as well as the site details and the variant standards. It was a very wise decision to swear everybody in because we do have available, if you do have any questions, Eric Menzer, who is a parish officer at St. John's Episcopal Church, to answer any questions or issues about the church, which is very excited to be facilitating this. Jules Tolbert, who is the community liaison and has been working with the community to help make this work out very well. And we also have architect Chris Dawson, who has designed the, I think, exquisite plans that we have before you. We have pre-marked with a stenographer and have before you just two exhibits. One is a brief summary about the university and its background, and the second is the plans that Mr. Dawson has prepared. So with no further ado, we would first call Ryan Riley up to offer some testimony. And Mr. Riley, can you state and spell your name for the record and tell us your position at the university?
Sure. Ryan Riley, R-Y-A-N, R-I-L-E-Y, and I serve as the Vice President for Advancement.
And Mr. Riley, we put before the board, and we've pre-marked as Exhibit 1, a two-page document concerning Harrisburg University. Could you briefly give the board a quick perspective about the university and what its focus is?
Sure. Harrisburg University was founded a little over 2 decades ago with the mission to improve the readiness of the workforce in the STEM disciplines, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Today, we sit with just under 10,000 students in all of our programs. We serve 2 main communities here in the Commonwealth, Central Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. We also have an international campus in the UAE. Our STEM disciplines focus 50 bachelor's, master's, and doctoral programs, and our 2 largest emerging areas right now are advanced agriculture and healthcare sciences. Just a little bit about Harrisburg University. About 99% of our undergraduates receive financial aid and scholarships. About 40% come from diverse backgrounds, and a little under 50% are women. The university has two educational towers, primarily in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This would be our first permanent location here in the city of York. We're very happy with our recruiting pipeline here in York County. We have many students from the York City schools. We have 7 school districts here in York County that participate in our college and the high school program, where we offer college credit at a discounted rate. And we're very happy that we haven't raised our undergraduate tuition in 10 years. So we're very mindful of our cost and access.
And then, Mr. Riley, can you tell us a little bit about the project, what interested you to have the university come to the York community, and then also, in general terms, what you hope to achieve when this project is built out?
Yep, I think in large part when we looked at this is just not new here in central Pennsylvania. This is pretty new throughout the country. We did our research to find out the largest providers of these programs in the world, and we looked at controlled environmental agriculture as not only important to climate and security of food access, but also creating an urban farm. So this would be the first program that would do this, and we studied the regions and the communities around our footprint, and we decided that York would be the best location, not only because it's resource-rich in many ways, but it also has a very forward-thinking and philanthropic community that supports innovative ideas.
And then relative to the actual functions, and Mr. Englerth will talk in more detail about the site itself, but what would you hope to be offering at the site in terms of services and educational opportunities?
So this facility will have mostly 3 components: an educational area, a retail area, and a research area. And so we'll be able to provide this as an education area where community will be able to interact, and also in partnering with organizations around food security. The idea of this in many ways, and why you don't see these in other communities, it's a fairly new movement to take what is known as controlled environmental agriculture or vertical farms and shrink them down to size on a location like this. And so this gives us the ability to lower sort of the logistics and emissions to creating food access in small communities and urban communities like this.
And then in terms of the agricultural production that would occur on site, would that product then be available for members of the community to purchase on the retail side of the project?
Absolutely, both from a retail consumer perspective, but then also partnering with organizations and distributing some of this food through some of our nonprofit partners. But yes, this will be a well-trafficked area that folks will be able to access 7 days a week, hopefully.
And then in terms of your outreach so far, have you received positive reaction both from the church, which owns the property where it's located, but also other community partners?
We have. All of the direct surrounding stakeholders have indicated both a positive position, but a real interest in this project. In addition to that, a lot of the philanthropic-minded organizations in this community have indicated that they would support this project and believe it would be a great asset to the work that's already happening around food distribution and fresh food.
And then in terms of the university's involvement in York, in general terms, if this project goes well, is the university considering other opportunities to become engaged and involved in the York City community?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, we've been very fortunate to have existing partnerships with a number of school districts here in York County. But in particular, our job is education, and so creating this living learning laboratory that will be in this community will be fully accessible to a number of K-12 students, but also other institutions. We don't build our programs in silos. One of the great things about Harrisburg University is we partner with a number of other institutions, and we don't duplicate what exists. And so, if you look at the Harrisburg University programs, you're not going to see an MBA. You're not going to see a lot of traditional programs that are well offered by our existing higher education partners. We like to add value with new programs, innovative areas, and also create opportunity for our communities both economically, but also we believe there's an aspect of agritourism that's very important to this project.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Those are the only questions I had. We welcome any questions the board may have either now for Mr. Riley or at the conclusion of our presentation.
I don't think I have any at this point. Members?
I believe you mentioned some of the neighbors, and I'm just curious as to which neighbors you approached and their thoughts on the project and maybe any interaction you might have.
Sure. I'm going to defer to Jules on some of the community. He's our community liaison, and let him answer that.
Yes. The partners and other organizations that we've interacted with can be really characterized in several different ways. One is other agriculture providers in the city. So we have had several meetings with York Fresh Food Farms, with Farmer Bruce Manns and the market director Jennifer Lobeline, about how the product and produce from our facility, which is, by the way, year-round product, a wide variety of produce, can augment and complement the offerings that York Fresh Food Farms provides to our urban and city population. Also, we are in the proximity of Central Market, and we've had very constructive conversations with manager Cindy Steele, again, about providing a more full-time, meaning number of days a week offering, as well as year-round offerings of fresh nutritional foods. So just a couple examples in the agriculture space. Ryan also mentioned other institutions of higher education. We've had several meetings with York College as recently as last week with new President Burns about collaborating with the Pell Environmental Horticulture Program that is new this year, at York College. So we seek to have a collaborative relationship with them. And then I should mention also that some of our health providers and health institutions are also interested in what we're doing. Not only WellSpan and UPMC, but Family First Health. Director Jenny Engelorth likes to use the term pharmacy with an F, where prescriptions could be given to patients to come get fresh nutritional food at our location. So just some examples of collaboration in the community.
I'd like to, before you sit down, I'd like to add on, because I was going to ask that question too, Adam. And I wanted to know if you have spoken with the Valencia, and I know that there's an apartment building being built on the north side of the parking lot. That I know that parking isn't a requirement for living in the city or building apartments in the city, though people do have cars, and so Valencia has customers with cars. The apartment building will have customers with cars, and I wondered if you spoke with them.
We have spoken with them and with the developers of the Fox Apartments, which is immediately to the northeast. We are also in conversation with the developers of the Northwest Triangle, which is immediately to the northwest of our property, as well as the property owner immediately to the north, Brocky Health. So we are in collaboration with all of those, as well as York Academy and investment research, investment real estate immediately to the north of York Academy.
Can you speak a little bit more about your conversation with the owner of Research Triangle Park? And I don't actually know who owns that now, if that's still in the RDA's hands.
The Northwest
Triangle property, one or multiple.
Well, I could
It's
defer
currently undeveloped.
to Belanda Nace, who is Redevelopment Authority.
Good evening. I'm Belanda Nace, it's Blandanace, and I am Deputy Director of the Bureau of Economic Development and also serve as the Executive Director of the Redevelopment Authority. And yes, it's very true. The Redevelopment Authority has been working with Harrisburg University for well over a year now, very supportive of this project, and not only the location, but the youth and the technology that will come in there. If you recall, or if you paid attention, years ago when the Northwest Triangle was initially under development, with a big splash and a big media coverage of this new high-tech, advanced manufacturing, job creation component, of course, the industry has shifted. The Northwest Triangle is under agreement to be developed into first-floor retail or office space and residential above, because we have such a housing crisis in this nation, so that makes sense. And we really feel that this brings in that technology component. So it's Northwest Triangle adjacent. And in fact, we've been working with Harrisburg University and the State Office of the Budget to divert the grant funding that was initially intended for technology development at the Northwest Triangle to this project, and to bringing Harrisburg University and their advanced manufacturing and technology and the Institute for Sustainable Advanced Manufacturing or Agriculture to come into York as well. So we are lockstep with Harrisburg University, helping them out with this.
I'm going to do one more follow-on.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Thank you. It's because it's a major deal.
It is.
To me, this is a big parking lot, and it's used by I think it's used by a lot of people. So I'm just trying to get a sense of where they will park instead. And I know the History Center is moving a block away, so the History Center I don't know what kind of parking they have on their campus as well. And then we have the other apartment building that does have their own unique parkings. And I'm also aware that there's a empty lot just north of the church, and I don't know if that's under development. At one point, they were going to put a 5-story apartment building there. And so maybe that's, so what?
Yes,
Can you speak to that?
you're correct. Directly north of the church, on the west side of Beaver Street, there is a parcel that's owned by the Redevelopment Authority that is under agreement with the Northwest Triangle Development Group, and they are developing that as parking. so that will serve that neighborhood a little bit better. You would be, and I've studied this site for the past 4 or 5, if not 15 years since I've been in York. The site is not, the current parking lot is not as heavily used as one would think. It really honestly isn't. And my biggest concern, changing hats briefly to the economic development director, is the church. Even though it's central business district and parking is not required, that how would this impact the church and their need for parking? So if it's okay with you, if you have no further questions, I'd step Eric Menzer to speak about the churches on that.
Yeah, good evening. Eric Menzer, Eric with the C, E-R-I-C, M-E-N-Z-E-R. My role with St. John the Baptist Church is, in secular terms, the chairman of the board, the current chairman of the board. Our willingness to enter into this agreement with Harrisburg University to support this project is really premised on the fact that in trying to be good stewards of land and good contributors to the community in the city, we're trying to balance our parking needs, which are primarily evenings and Sunday mornings, with a desire to create tax base and investment in the city with property that we control. And Blanda is right. You would actually be very surprised how light the utilization of that lot is during the day now. Part of that is driven by the shift from an office-based downtown economy to a residential and a better residential and retail mix, and the office portion of the economy, frankly, going more and more remote. So the utilization of that parking lot 9 to 5 weekdays has dropped dramatically since probably 2015. Trust me, we've invested millions and millions of dollars in the church in the last 5 or 6 years. We are fortunate to be a healthy and growing church, and the ability to provide parking for our attendees evenings and Sunday mornings is first and foremost in our mind, and we would not be entering into this agreement if we didn't feel like our needs were adequately protected both now and in the future. And we think we're balancing well our desire to support investment and economic development with the best use of land in downtown.
Hi, sorry, thank you. I'll be there Christmas Eve because that's what we do Christmas Eve. So
A parking spot for you.
Mom just needs one out front for the, But so I'm sorry, I didn't see a deed in here. So the church owns the parking lot. Is the church going to sell the parking lot to Harrisburg University, or are you leasing it? And you talked about tax base. So does this mean Harrisburg University's use of that parking lot, if they convert it, will that turn into a for-profit, and will the city get property tax?
I'd have to defer to the university on that. I can tell you that right now, the property actually is taxable because it is used for a commercial use. We currently lease it to a neighboring business that operates it during the day and generates income for themselves. So from the church, and you're asking about the ownership structure. Currently, the discussion is around a very long-term land lease, but a sale is not out of the question. Really, from the church's perspective, we're interested in 2 things. One is an economic return on the lot, which helps support the church and its viability. And the second is access to parking evenings and Sunday mornings for our long-term health of our members. The actual form of the real estate transaction is not as critical to us. There's a number of ways to skin a cat, and we'll cross that bridge really when all of the other issues are resolved and the project is ready to move forward. We'll then finalize the transaction between the church and Harrisburg University.
Thank you.
Is there a primary? Are you going to sell or are you going to lease? I mean, what's the current thought?
The current letter of understanding, letter of intent with Harrisburg University is to lease it.
To lease it.
But it would be a very long-term lease. I mean, functionally, you don't develop this kind of project unless you control a piece of land for well beyond the useful life of the building.
Okay. And my other question was, there's an existing building on there that says this building will stay. Is there going to be used for that, or is that part of the church?
As Tom will speak to, that building is actually not on the church's parking lot. I think it's shown on the plan as a reference point, but that is not on the church's property. Many people think that our lot extends from alley to alley. It does not. There's actually a neighboring 2 rows of parking that's owned by another property owner. So it looks like it's the same lot, but it's not.
Thank you. I'm not doing a great job of having fewer witnesses than I did at the Planning Commission. I'll acknowledge that. But I think then we'll call next Tom Englerth, and Tom will be in a position to put some specifics on the project, and so he can speak at the podium. I'll hold this for him. And then Tom, if you want to introduce yourself, describe your position in site design, and then just begin giving a little bit overview of what the board is looking at.
Certainly. Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom Englerth from Site Design Concepts, where I'm a senior leader and senior project manager, with the great pleasure of working on this project, as everybody sees it as a great asset to the community. We'll start off here with a little description of what's going on out there. We are proposing at this time a 14,000 square foot CEA, which you've heard of earlier today. We'll also have a 2,600 square foot R&D building proposed on the other side of the property. The property is currently bordered on the west by North Beaver Street. It's bordered on the south by West Gay Avenue, and it's bordered on the east by Cherry Lane. To the north, as was just discussed, there is an additional lot, a surface parking lot, that does have a historical existing building on it. That parcel is not part of this project. So right now we're looking at a 0.9 acre lot sitting on the corners of North Beaver, West Gay, and North Cherry, and bordered on the north by a vacant or surface parking lot. Again, the larger building is where the grow facility will be housed and the retail area. And then what we talked about earlier, the education, the demonstration area, and the research and development will be in the blue building that's on your property. We are also providing parking for the church across the frontage of West Gay Avenue, and that will be across the entire frontage during the hours that the church is needing it. That's the evenings and on Sundays. There is a small area here that will be closed off during regular business hours of our facility as more of a public gathering space. There'll be tables, umbrellas, some plantings there that are movable. So there will be a public gathering space there as well. The site is very ideal for this type of development. It's very flat, very little excavation needed. All the utilities are there for us. And again, this is really a very unique project in that it houses those three uses: the grow facility, the retail, and the R&D and education. Unique in the fact that we really don't see those types of facilities anywhere in this country. They're primarily in Europe. We do see grow facilities in the United States, but again, the uniqueness of this is that it is modeled to be 100% sustainable, not just environmentally, but financially as well. This model, the retail portion of this facility will support the entire operation moving forward.
And then, Tom, relative to the uniqueness factor, is that really what creates the hardship and the need for a use variance because this is not otherwise provided for in the municipal ordinance?
Yes, that's correct. So the CEA is not provided for in the ordinance whatsoever. So as far as a hardship goes, we can't find that use allowed in the ordinance. Along those same lines, you've heard multiple times tonight, we've got an educational facility, we have a grow facility, and we have a retail facility. So of those three uses, two of those are permitted in the central business district, and that is the higher ed and the retail area.
And then just briefly, we put into the record applicant's exhibit number 2, which is drawings, depictions prepared by Chris Dawson, architect. Maybe you could just describe the architect's role in this and then just briefly walk the board through the most important or significant portions of exhibit 2.
Yes, so Site Design Concepts was able to provide an existing conditions plan for this project. We worked very closely with Chris Dawson Architects to lay out the site based on the buildings that they designed and the landscape that they provided around the site. Switching to page CS1, those are pictures of the existing site. I'm sure you've all seen that site, driven by it many times, but there are numerous photos there of what that site looks like. CS2 is the existing conditions plan that shows both the St. John's property and the property to the north and the alleys around the site and the streets. A1B is the site plan that we just looked at, shows what's being proposed on the site, the parking, the two buildings, and the public square area. And then the following pages, the following 2 pages are just some schematic layouts of what that building and site will look like for the public square area. And then we go to A5, A6, A7, and A8, which are some three-dimensional site renderings that the architect, Chris Dawson Associates, was able to build based on the existing conditions plan that was provided to them and their schematic architectural plans that they've developed to this point.
And Mr. Engler, based on your background, your expertise, do you believe that this project, based on the benefits it will confer to the community and the circumstances of the zoning ordinance, are such that it would be appropriate for this board to exercise its discretion to grant a use variance under the circumstances?
Yes, I do, and we'll go back again to those 3 uses, and one is not permitted, or one is not promoted in the ordinance, provided for in the ordinance, and the other 2 are actually in the ordinance and allowed for in this location, in this zoning district. There will be no noise, no light, nothing obnoxious or onerous to the surrounding neighborhood, and we feel like it would be a harmonious addition to this neighborhood.
So that's all we have for Mr. Englerth. If the board does have any questions of either Mr. Englerth, or we also have Mr. Dawson here who prepared Exhibit 2, we would welcome any questions for either of them or the rest of the team.
Not sure who this would apply to, but on a daily basis during the week, how many students are on site?
We currently have operations in the city of Harrisburg and at an offsite in Steelton, and it's about 10 to 20 a day, and that's mostly because this is highly personalized learning and lab experience. Maybe for a large lab or tours that might get higher, but I don't see that being the majority, more the exception.
And you mentioned, I believe, K-12 possible interactions there. Is that something that would the local schools would be able to pop in and see this innovative project that you're doing, or how?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the most important. In this case, as was mentioned, this is new not only to the region and the Commonwealth, but our country. And so any chance we can expose young people to fresh foods and access, we would certainly promote that. But we would work it within community availability and ensure that it sort of fits the traffic flow plan and respects York Academy's traffic in other areas. But we very much view this as an educational facility.
Thank you.
As a follow-on to Adam's question, which I was going to, when you asked how many students, so in the letter it talks about requiring 1 off-street parking space for each of 3 students based on design capacity. How many parking spaces are you planning to retain on your campus?
The number.
Okay.
Yeah, the number right now is in the 40s.
40s.
I'm not sure that we're required to have the parking per the students in the central business district, but we do have enough parking there to for our use. We feel like We meet the needs of our use, and of course for the church as they need it.
Okay, thank you.
Is there going to be any parking for, since you're having a retail store, for customers coming in there too?
Oh, sure. So we have these 40-some spaces.
Okay. Yeah, I saw those, and my follow-on question also is the existing lot that's, has the building that's there, and is there any interest? Have you talked to Kinsley about purchasing it, or is it expanding? Because if this is goes very well, and there's another lot for you for more parking, another building, expanding the greenhouse.
Can I on my head?
Okay, so yes, there's been, okay, I was just curious, because your diagram has the orange block going all the way around, like there has been discussion, like you're interested in that, so just wanted to bring that up. Thanks.
I have a follow-on question about your design renderings, which are beautiful, but I'm confused about the difference between A1B and A4/A5, A6. It looks like the R&D building is maybe not decided where you're going to place that yet. And as I speak about, and can you also say how high it's going to be? Because then that affects the view of other buildings, perhaps some historical. And just curious how high any of this will be.
Sure.
Thanks.
So the first question relates to the ongoing, we're in concept at this point, right? So the negotiations with the church in terms of what they were comfortable with in terms of their parking resulted in that piece sliding further east on the site. So you're being pretty savvy to pick up on those distinctions, the inconsistency in the set. The entire complex is a single story. There's no stairs, elevator, or anything like that. It's roughly in the 14 to 15 foot height, so nothing overbearing or competing with any of the historic fabric. And in fact, I think we went through probably close to 10 different iterations in terms of trying to site the building as sensitively as possible, not just to have the best parking retained on the site, but be, work with the context that's there as much as possible and encourage pedestrian as well as vehicular ease of use, intuitive use of the site.
I agree. You're doing that by keeping it away from Gas Alley or Gas Avenue. So that does maintain the visual. And it looks like if you go with the A1B, there will be three curb cuts, one from front to back and then a side curb cut, which that would give good flow. And so if we go with that, what is the space between the R&D and the orange? It's like is that just like an outside walkway or?
Correct.
Cart path?
Correct. And it relates to some of the thinking about the potential for additional space if we can negotiate with Kinsley, access and that sort of thing, not only for the historic building, but the lot to the north. So we've trying to think about this from all angles and what is going to basically knit into the city the best way possible and not get to a situation where it feels ad hoc ever.
Thank you. That's it for me. Your name?
Chris Dawson, CHRISDAWSON.
This might be getting into the weeds, so I don't want to go too long on it, since this is on the agricultural side, and I think that's the variance we're here for. But any thought in residential / commercial for this property with the shortage and the demand for residential space in the city?
We actually speak to that as the property owner. The church has been approached a number of times over the years about different potential uses of the lot. We're always trying to balance being a good neighbor with our own needs. And the challenge with residential is people need to park their cars evenings and Sunday mornings. And so as we've been approached by a number of parties and looked at how to balance all the needs, this one really fits because this is a use that will generate virtually all of its traffic at times that the church is not using the lot. So it's a really good fit. And in my opinion, if I put on my economic development hat, it's actually a great use, because what it's doing is not locking up land as a surface parking lot, not being productive, just so we can park in it for 2 hours on a Sunday morning. So to me, this is actually a great kind of layering of uses and maximization of the land.
I'd like to follow up a little bit. I hope it won't look too much like a comment. I'm glad Blanda answered a question before I asked it. And I agree with you, Eric, that the use as a parking lot is not what it was probably 10, 12 years ago. On the other hand, at 2:20 this afternoon, there were 46 cars parked on the lot, and I hope the RDA is able to come up with something. Some of those cars might work in the parking garage, which is really a stone's throw away, but you know, there's very little steps forward that can be taken without maybe stepping on somebody's foot. And it may be a statistic that only 10% of the population suffers a certain disease in a certain year, but if you're one of that 10%, we have to be concerned about it. And if you had not invited Eric up, I was about to, because I wanted to hear, I wanted him to speak about the church's position in this. And my word, try to picture the city without its iconic downtown churches. It's unimaginable. And you know, they need to make their way in life too, as does Caesar. And I would like a little bit more testimony, information, if you can provide it. I don't think either one of you are tax lawyers, but Caesar being the city, our sewer money is not going to last for a century, and we're interested in improving our tax base. You know, economic development. We struggle to get $1 million or $2 million development in the city, and the surrounding townships are trying to regulate the growth so that it doesn't overwhelm them. Right? Eric knows. Would either one of you, I mean, is this, or anyone, is this going to, when it's up and operating, is it not only going to be an asset to the city in terms of education and commerce, but is it also going to add anything to our tax base?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, and that's a great question. By nature, you know, universities are partners in the communities they serve, not only in, you know, adding quality of life and educational opportunities, but also economic ones. And so we do view this as a very important project for us. We also acknowledge that Harrisburg University is coming to the city of York, and we want to make sure that, you know, we're good tenants and partners there. With regard to the specifics, my background isn't in reviewing the long-term leases and the tax liabilities directly to that. What I can say is we will certainly follow, you know, whatever is put in front of us to make the project move forward. I would also say that we would, you know, be mindful of those that we employ at this facility. That would be employees that would be paying, you know, payroll taxes. You know, we would be contributing to that. And then I think the most important piece is our ability to engage the community and be another space for, you know, areas to use. But I can't speak directly to the real estate tax on that, not knowing the specifics of the lease and the terminology. But, you know, we would certainly be supportive.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to say I am not a tax lawyer and do not aspire to be one. So I can't really speak to it. There are arguments that it depends on how the ownership is structured. It depends what the lease looks like. There are very specific laws in Pennsylvania about tax exempt status, but I would be being dishonest and doing a disservice if I said this will certainly be on the tax rolls or this will certainly be off the tax rolls. And Mr. Harold may have some better perspective than I, but I will say generally my perception, having worked with the university, is if we do have a tax exempt argument, that while they may avail themselves of it, it's not guaranteed that they will avail themselves of it. Also, many institutions like this look at payments in lieu of real estate taxes, but everything about this university in terms of their retention of local professionals, their utilization, their engineers in the city, their architects in the city, their lawyers in the city, they have Jules making outreach. If you lose anything on real estate tax dollars, I think you're going to get immense dividends in every other respect that will more than offset any direct impact of real estate taxes.
Thank you. And having asked that question, I'm going to acknowledge that it's a shame that we seem to only be able to tax worthwhile things like education and facilities and if only we could tax crime and laziness and things like that. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for the applicants? Does anyone in the audience wish to offer any comment on the project? It doesn't have to be a strong yes or no or for or against, but it can just be an observation.
Sorry, if I could just add one more thing from an economic development perspective. I've been working with Harrisburg University, and Ian Kransky is their director of this program, who couldn't unfortunately make it here tonight. We're actually talking with a lot of the design of this project is based on the Netherlands and Dutch greenhouses or glass houses. And it was shocking to me to learn that the Netherlands, although the size of Maryland, or a little bit larger than Maryland, the state, it is the #2 exporter of agricultural produce in the world because they thrive at these greenhouse technology. And they are looking at places in the United States to bring their technology. And we are lucky enough to be on the list with places like Atlanta and Nashville and York. And that is just a really exciting thing. And a lot of the credit goes to Ian and Harrisburg University in their outreach and their connections in this type of industry to be able to bring something like that to York that is kind of the prototype to make it happen here as one of the first places in the States to embrace this small mini urban greenhouse technology is just thrilling. So it goes beyond the numbers and the heights and the distances and the taxes, but it's that unmeasurable, pride that you can get behind. This is a very exciting project.
Anything to add, Paul?
No, we appreciate immensely the board's time and your questions. We would respectfully move into the record applicants exhibits 1 and 2, and I can honestly say in almost 30 years of practicing law, this is one of the most exciting projects I've seen, and those of us who work in the city and people who live here, I think, are going to see extreme benefits from this. And what Bland had just cited, I think, is the illustration. This is project 1 in this country in collaboration with this group from the Netherlands. So the opportunities, I think, are endless. And you look at the rich agricultural history of this community, the fact that we're fortunate enough that the church waited and didn't just jump on the first opportunity to convert the surface parking lot. And this is going to be so much more meaningful for everybody in that community to not have a surface parking lot, but have something innovative like this. I think it just screams for a yes, but we would love to have your endorsement. We would love to have it be unanimous, and we would really love to send a great message to Harrisburg University that our doors in this city are open for business, they're open for innovative projects, and I think it will be the beginning of a very good, long, productive relationship. So again, we appreciate your time.
And I'm sure the Dutch will be very impressed with our new bicycle lanes, too. I think we can close. I'll do a Bob Hollis instead of Michael Miller. I think the pluses in this far outweigh the negatives. I really do. And I wasn't convinced at first because I like plain talk, and I thought a controlled environment, whatever, I thought that sounds like a greenhouse. And why don't they just call it a greenhouse? Well, it's modern life. Some things can't stay the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm satisfied. I had.
The only thing I would say is your whole discussion about tax basis. The church doesn't contribute to the tax basis. This looks like it's Harrisburg University is the first nonprofit private STEM focused. They probably have very little to add to the tax basis, but I'm okay with it because it's a better use of this piece of property, period.
The only other thing I would add, and this would be not only among us, but for the benefit of the project people, is the Planning Commission, I think, questioned a little bit about existing members of our community. There are 3 farmers markets in the York area, and only one of them, sad to say, is still functioning really as a farmer's market. The other one is a lunch emporium, and the one closest to this property, and the one closest to where I live is Penn Street Market, and I thought someone indicated to the Planning Commission that you all have been in close touch with the farmers markets, and I asked a long-time market stand operator and the market manager at Penn Street Market, and it was news to them. So I know the intent and the hope was voiced that you want to complement what we have going in York, and it ain't what it used to be, but we would love to see our 2 downtown markets continue as something like that. And would one of you, before you get up and run out, I have a name and phone number that I was asked to give you. You might share it with Ian, I think was his name, was at the Planning Commission. Please help me remember that. I mean, please come up at the end. Would someone like to offer a motion?
In the case of 52-2023-Z-V for the property of 129 North Beaver Street, I move to approve a variance for a use non-provided for in the current zoning ordinance, proposing a controlled environmental agricultural CEA use in a CBD zoning district.
Second?
It has been moved by Ms. Jenkins and seconded by Ms. Bupp to approve the variance for the use as described in the application. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins.
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent.
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman.
Aye.
Mr. Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp.
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate it.
Yes, I've talked to Bruce. We'll talk again.
Sounds, I only talked to him for the first time a couple of nights ago, and he seems like very dedicated, conscientious. thoughtful person. And he's already been visited by 2 Dutch experts in growing, so.
Nice to hear your presentation. Yeah.
So you know him?
I do know him.
Okay.
And I brought the 2 Dutch experts. We spent over an hour talking.
Exciting.
It was very good.
You know, good people should work together. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Parking on the north side, I didn't realize that.
See you guys. Yep, thanks. See ya.
Flexibility.
Thank you. I was able to be heard tonight.
I'm sorry?
I was able to be heard tonight.
Yes, thank you.
The only thought that I would have is that there's an interpreter there, if we want to do the interpreter's case next, but that's up to you.
Okay, let's do that. We're going to do a little bit of hopscotching on the numerical order of cases, but not much. And we're doing fairly good time-wise, I think. Yes, sir.
We're on track for 6 hours.
No, but we're picking up speed.
Sir, what case are you here for, sir? Yep.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mario Paz, and I am here as an interpreter assisting Mr. Edward Taveras for case 47-.
Look at that.
C-V-SE.
Perfect. That's the next one in order anyway. So come on up to the. And sir, do you swear that you'll faithfully and accurately interpret all that is said here tonight on the record?
Affirm, Mario Paz, Spanish court interpreter.
Thank you. All right, the next case is case number 47-2023-Z-V/SE. The applicant and owner of the subject property is Edward Taveras of 817 West Locust Street, York, Pennsylvania. The subject property is located at 756 West Princess Street, York, Pennsylvania, which address is located in the UN2 Urban Residential Neighborhood Zoning District of the City of York. Applicant seeks 2 variances and a special exception to permit a multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use. First, the applicant seeks a definitional variance to permit a multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use. Next, the applicant seeks a variance to permit up to 2 dwelling units, which exceeds allowable density requirements of the zoning ordinance. And finally, the applicant seeks a special exception to permit a multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use, a use permitted by special exception in the UN2 zoning district. The application was reviewed by the planning staff of the City of York. The planning staff recommends denial of the requested variance related to the definition of multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance related to density. The planning staff recommends approval of the special exception conditioned on the zoning hearing board's grant of both variances. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on December 11th, 2023. By way of unanimous vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variance. The record before the board this evening consists of the application itself, an October 19th, 2023 letter from Zoning Officer McMillian, the deed to the subject property, 3 pages of floor plans of the subject property, an aerial photo of the subject property, and 18 pages of photos of the subject property.
Thank you. Mr. Taveras.
Yes, sir.
Would you tell us what you would like to do with this property?
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Edward Tavera.
Good evening, my name is Edward Taveras.
La razón que estoy aquí es porque la casa es bastante amplia
The reason why I'm here is because the house is quite large.
y decidí si está dentro de sus posibilidades para que me ayuden a hacer una división de 2 apartamentos.
And I would like to ask if it's within the possibilities of the board to permit me to be able to make a division such as to result in 2 apartments.
Ya que la casa está estructuralmente muy en buena condición y tiene 2 parqueos.
Due to the house being structurally in very good condition, having 2 different parking spaces,
Tiene parqueo para el primer nivel y parqueo para el segundo amplio.
it does have wide parking spaces for not only the first level, but also for a second level.
También estoy dispuesto a colaborar, siempre he estado dispuesto a colaborar con la ciudad.
Also, I'm very much willing, I have always been very willing to collaborate with the city.
Ya que esa casa tenía unos cuantos años cerrada ahí, estaba al lado de mi casa y para embellecer y darle mejor rostro a lo que es la ciudad.
Due to the fact that the house has been vacant for several years, it's next to my home dwelling, and I would like to beautify the home so as to be able to do my duty in beautifying the city.
Oh.
I'm sorry, did Mr. Taveras lives fairly close, I believe, to the property?
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
Is this, Mr. Taveras, would this be your first venture into rental real estate?
No, señor, ya lo había hecho con otra casa que había cogido fuego al lado de cerca de mi casa también.
No, sir. I have done this previously with another house that unfortunately went up in a fire not too far from where I live also.
Oh. Would anyone else like to ask the applicant any questions? I have to confess I didn't do my homework enough on this.
Okay. I want to start by saying thank you for being honest about the amount of space in the backyard and that there are only 2 parking spaces in the 20-foot wide lot. Because the house is on a corner, you do, as you mentioned in your package, you do say that there is parking on the side of the house because the house is on a corner. So for me, that helps because normally I prefer that you have the required parking on your lot. And the required parking for 2 units is 3 parking spaces. So I just wanted to start with a thank you and explain what I'm thinking about the parking.
Thank you.
Should there be a variance on here for parking? Was that missed by?
Did I miss that? Was there?
No, there's not one there, but should there be? Should there be a variance because the rules say 2 apartments is 3.
Yeah, Monty, where are we at on that?
Well, going through this because Nancy helped him with his first one, and being that the home is on the corner like that and there's no other houses on the other side of the street, she said we can just let him go because he have adequate parking because nobody parks there. I don't really understand it because I thought it had to be on the property. You need to have 3 spaces.
Well, so
I would agree that I think actually there should be a parking variance.
I mean, we can approve it, but can we just add it in and say,
Right.
that's something we can't do?
Well, so I think the interesting thing is that based on what Monty just told me, that is a zoning officer determination. And the zoning officer has determined that they meet the parking requirements. We can disagree with that, but it's not really our purview to override that, even though I think that it is patently wrong. If, for example, he had met it, she said, no, you didn't meet it, then he would be here appealing that determination. But it's, yeah.
And far be it from me to disagree with our esteemed former zoning officer and now city planner, but at the planning commission meeting, she said something to the effect that since this is a corner property, he has the parking on the side street, Sheridan Street. No, he doesn't. The public does. And I can assure you that there will be some people from Princess Street, which has the same parking situation that much of the city does, at 10 in the morning or 2:30 in the afternoon, you can park. It gets very difficult evenings and weekends, and people will, from the middle of the block, will go, if they have to, down to is it Hawthorne or Sheridan? The side street. Now, I'm not, I don't think the future of civilization rides on this question, but I think that technically there should be a parking variance. Can we grant one?
It would be subject to challenge, but I'm okay if you want to do it and put it in the record. I have no problem with that. The challenge would be that it was not properly advertised, it was not properly noticed. But if you want to take that action, put it in the record. Again, subject to challenge, we would lose on a challenge, but I also don't think anybody's going to challenge it.
I'm not going to lose sleep over that.
And I think this kind of protects the client, right?
It does.
Right? By adding it in, because all of a sudden, somebody could come and say, well, he wasn't approved for parking, so why is that?
I agree.
And just the hearsay from the zoning officer is not
I agree.
fact.
I agree. Yeah.
So we're pretty much on board with adding it.
I think as long as the client's okay with it.
I think the lawyers call that sua sponte, on our spontaneous, we add it even though it wasn't requested.
Mr. Tavares, are you okay with us, let me put this thing on. Mr. Tavares, are you okay if we add on a variance? It's not going to cost you anything, and it'll protect you in the future for the parking.
Todo bien.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, perfect.
So he understands that he said there was one parking space for each apartment, but that's not according to our ordinance.
He understands the ordinance.
¿Usted entiende la ley?
O sea, no estoy entendiendo muy bien porque la casa tiene dos parking, o sea, un parqueo para el que vive abajo y uno al lado para el que vive arriba.
Yeah, I'm not completely understanding because the house in essence would have two parking spaces, one for the tenant of the first floor and one for the tenant of the second floor.
So the zoning ordinance sets a minimum number of parking spaces that a property must have based on how many dwelling units there are. And it's more than just one, okay? So it's not a one parking space for one dwelling unit. It's actually, I think, 1.5 parking spaces for each dwelling unit. So you would actually be required to have 3 off-street parking spaces. But what the board is considering here is if they are inclined to grant the other variances and the other requests that you're making here tonight, to also grant you a variance that says you could do what you want to do with only 2, not 3.
Gracias.
They're trying to protect you is essentially what they're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
How many actual rooms are on the first floor?
¿Cuántos dormitorios de hecho quedan en el primer piso?
2 dormitorios. Es muy grande la casa.
2 bedrooms. The house is quite large.
Con muy buen espacio.
That's on the first floor?
¿En el primer piso?
Yes.
Yes.
Es grande la casa.
The house is quite large.
Chula.
I think they're using a dining room as a bedroom, maybe. Are you using one of what might have been a dining room? as a bedroom? Because there's a pass-through from the hall through a bedroom to the kitchen. So,
I think it's most common, I think it's more often that the first floor apartment is considered one bedroom. And so that there's a dining room, a bedroom, and a living room. But if he wants, who knows, somebody, a renter, a tenant might come along who would like this.
If you're looking at that first room, I would think there's probably going to be a wall that's going to go up and divide that.
Sí, sí, correcto.
Yes, correct.
Correct.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
So let me ask, on the drawings themselves, are these proposals, or is this actually what is in the house right now?
No, no lo he hecho todavía.
No, I haven't done anything as of yet.
That this is what the house looks like right now?
Eso es ¿es esto como se ve la casa ahora?
Sí, como,
Okay.
como
¿Cómo
va a
está la
ser.
casa ahora o cómo va a ser cuando
Como
esté-
va a ser, como va a
No,
ser.
that's how I'm proposing.
Oh, okay, so these are your, okay, so this is the way you want to go, okay,
Sí,
Okay.
señor.
Yes, sir.
got it, thanks.
Oh, thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah, that one.
I-
Mr. Tavares, do you do some of work like this yourself, or do you have a very skilled brother-in-law, or?
Contractor.
Sí, un primo y yo lo hacemos.
Yes, a cousin of mine and myself, we do this.
Okay. That's a big help.
can you tell me, I'm very sorry that you lost your other rental property to fire. Was that property in the process of being renovated? Or was it finished renovation with people living in it?
No, no, eso fue otra casa que yo había comprado cerca de mi casa. Yo, no era de mi propiedad. Fue otra persona, yo la compré.
No, that was another house that I had bought close to my house. It wasn't my property. I purchased it from someone else.
No estamos hablando de esta, sino de otra.
We're not talking about the same one. It's a different one.
No.
I'm going to, so what I wanted to understand, and maybe I should have been more direct, is did you do renovations on the other house yourself? Was it properly inspected? Do you know what caused the fire? Was it bad wiring or something related to? It is irrelevant only in that he said he's going to do renovations himself, and I'm curious. I guess our inspectors have to make sure everything is up to code. So
Right.
was it, just curious if it was up to code. I know, it's all right.
Not really our job.
All right, disregard.
Councilwoman,
Is there anyone in the audience with any questions for this applicant? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to give any testimony regarding this case or opinion? Hearing none, I think we can close. Comments, discussion? The,
looks like a good project. The density of the house. Two apartments is gonna be nice in it.
It'll take a long time to renovate, but more power to him.
I know. You know.
Would someone like to offer a motion?
In the case 472023 ZV-SE at 756 West Princess Street, I move to approve a variance to the definition of a multifamily conversion from a different use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002A at 756 West Princess Street in the UN2 zoning district.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Holman, seconded by Ms. Bupp, to approve the variance to the definition of conversion. Calling for the vote, Ms. Holman, or Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Mr. Nugent?
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye.
Okay. Move to approve a variance, and I'm kind of winging this, for the requirement of a 1.5 parking space per apartment. The owner will have less than the 3 required and only have 2, something to that effect.
It's been moved by Mr. Holman, seconded by Ms. Jenkins, to grant a variance to the parking requirement permitting to the existing 2 spaces. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent?
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye.
Next, move to approve a dimensional variance for multifamily conversion from a different use found in section 1304.01-1, decimal 02, decimal 002, to include conversion of a single-family home into 2 units for the property at 756 West Princess Street in the UN2 zoning district.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Holman, seconded by Ms. Bupp, to approve the variance for proposed density. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Mr. Nugent?
Aye.
Nugent, aye. And Jenkins, aye. Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye.
And lastly, move to approve a special exception to allow multifamily use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002 at 756 West Princess Street in the UN2 zoning district.
Second?
It's been moved by Mr. Holman, seconded by Ms. Bupp, to approve the special exception allowing 2 units. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent?
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye. You're approved, Mr. Tavares?
I'm sorry, who was the second on that? Was it? Okay.
Thank you.
You're approved, Mr. Tavares. Good luck.
Thank you for coming for approval before you started work on it, too. Good job.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Tengo otra pequeña, a ver si está dentro de su posibilidad de yo, a veces tengo, ustedes saben, como uno en un hogar con su esposa tiene su disgusto y su pleito, diríamos.
So I have one other question only, perhaps maybe it could be within your possibility to provide some input on this. You know how sometimes in a marriage, sometimes you do have some discussions.
Voy a enseñarle una foto de el basement para hacer un baño abajo.
I would like to show you pictures of the basement. I would like to build a bathroom down in the basement.
So let me just, here's what I think. That's out of our purview tonight. So talk to Monty, and he'll talk to the codes folks, and they can work with you to see if that's a possibility or not. It's not really anything that we deal with here tonight. Okay?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And thank you for your good work, sir.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You need a break? You all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next case is case number 48-2023-Z-V. Applicant is Luis Rivera of 446 North George Street, York, Pennsylvania. The owner of the subject property is the York County Industrial Development Authority of 144 Roosevelt Avenue, York, Pennsylvania. Subject property is located at 48 East Market Street, which address is located in the Central Business Zoning District of the City of York. The applicant seeks a variance to permit a fence higher than 6 feet, which it would exceed the height restrictions of the City of York zoning ordinance. The application was reviewed by the planning staff of the City of York. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on December 11th, 2023. By way of unanimous vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variance. The record before the board this evening consists of the application itself, the deed to the subject property, an aerial view of the subject property, and 7 photos of the subject property.
Good evening. My name is Luis Rivera. I'm with Future Solutions Fence. I'm the administrative assistant there.
Could you speak up a little bit, please?
Good evening. My name is Luis Rivera. I'm with Future Solutions Fence. I'm the administrative assistant there. And the reason we are asking for this variance is because we are trying to cover up a generator at the Yorktown Hotel, which is relatively unsightly when the consumer is entering the building. So we're just trying to deter, or rather cover up and move the direction of the eye towards the entrance. The reason why we need the height variance is because it is on a retaining wall, and the generator is roughly 10 feet in height. The total height of the structure, including the retaining wall, the fence on top of the retaining wall, would be 11 feet 3 inches.
And I understand that the reason that this generator cannot be obscured by planting is because it's on concrete or something like that, and you can't dig through it.
Yes, that is correct. There is a small piece of land in front of the retaining wall, way too small for there to be any sort of landscaping. Additionally, if there were any landscaping such as trees that could possibly the roots growing and stuff could possibly interfere with the electrical systems underground.
Is there anyone here in opposition to this project?
Just curiosity, what's the fence?
It is
solid fence, white?
Yeah, so it's going to be vinyl fence with 5x5 by 8 posts. Each section will be slightly wider than the other because of the nature of the retaining wall. I do have additional details that I can provide that I do not believe I provided during the application.
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay too. Is it going all the way around, or is it just?
It's a 20-foot long retaining wall. The wall steps up, right. And it's just a straight line. It's not gonna enclose. It's not going to enclose because the entrance is towards the rear of the building. We only need to cover that one side.
And this is a Yorktown project.
Yes, this is for the Yorktown Hotel. Yep.
And I understand that this is required by Hilton.
That is correct, yes. If you would like to hear from a representative from the Yorktown Hotel, I have my colleague here, Michael, and he can
I'm okay.
input some info if you would like.
And I trust that since we've put, I think, 40 million or so into the hotel, we wouldn't do anything with a fence that didn't need to be done, and it might make it look better.
Agree.
Okay.
If you're okay, I'll move to approve a variance to waive the height requirement as defined in section 1304.02-7.02 at 48 East Market Street in the CBD zoning district.
Just one possible, it's totally up to the board however they want to do this, but a recommendation might be to condition it on not being higher than 12 feet. He testified that it would be 11 feet 3 inches. If you gave him 12 feet, that gives him a little leeway. And then if you waive it all together, they could put a 30-footer up.
So moved. Maximum 12 feet.
Okay, yeah.
Is 12 feet good with you? I mean,
Yeah, with the 11, the 12 feet is more than enough, so.
It's going to be 12 feet at the second location as well.
So the second location, I was a bit confused when I first applied. That fence there will be 6 foot tall only, where the balusters are with the transformers, I believe.
Yep.
There's multiple transformers there. That fence will only be 6 foot tall.
Will the bollards be inside the fence so you don't have to see the yellow bollards?
Yes, yes, it will be.
Out of curiosity, what color fence are you using?
I believe that there's discussion between white and an adobe, which is like a khaki.
Thank you. Okay.
Does that motion stand, or do we need to repeat that?
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Nugent and seconded by Mr. Holman to approve the variance from the height limitations on the fence. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins.
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent.
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman. Aye. Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp.
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good job.
The next case is case number 49-2023-Z-V/SE. The applicant and owner of the subject property is LSL Property Management of 1742 C Yorktown Drive, York, Pennsylvania. The subject property is located at 28 North Pine Street, York, Pennsylvania, which address is located in the UN1 Urban Mixed Commercial Residential Zoning District of the City of York. Applicant seeks a variance to permit a 6th dwelling unit in a building which is currently licensed as a 5-unit building. Such an addition would exceed allowable density requirements.
Good evening.
Hold on just a minute, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, that was, the application was reviewed by the planning staff of the City of York. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on December 11th, 2023. By way of majority vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variance. The record before the board this evening consists of the application itself, a sheet labeled variance narrative, an aerial photo of the subject property, the deed to the subject property, a letter dated September 26th from Zoning Officer McMillian, a parking letter from John Ogden, a page of hand-drawn floor plans, and 4 pages of photos of the subject property.
Mr. Lambert, I found the narrative a little bit confusing about how this happened. Could you recount it for us?
Yeah, sure. Good evening. My name is Shaman Lambert. I purchased this property as a 5-unit building. The same tenants have been living in there since I purchased it. It did get approved and licensed through you guys as a 5-unit building. The 3rd floor I was renting out as one apartment, even though the areas are separated. So what you see is a separate efficiency from the actual 3rd floor itself. So this whole time I was renting the 3rd floor out as one apartment, but to find out that it needs to be listed as its own, I guess, efficiency because it's not actually attached to the 3rd floor efficiency. It's been occupied since I bought the property. The same person has been living in there, so I'm just here to, try to get it licensed the correct way. That's basically what I have the parking that from the law office that said that they were able to supply parking if needed. This far, I haven't had any issues with any parking at all. And like I said, I haven't had any issues with the tenants. The tenant's been there since I purchased the property. That area, like I said, on the 3rd floor is separate from the other 3rd floor unit. So I have 2 units on the 1st floor, 2 units on the 2nd floor, and a 3rd floor unit plus that picture that you see of a 2nd unit. So what I'm trying to do is just license it as its own efficiency because right now they're staying there and they've been staying there since I purchased the property, and I can't rent it out as a 3rd floor 2-bedroom apartment because it's technically 2 different entries and exits.
Okay.
Where are these parking spaces? Because for 5 apartments, you should have 7?
8.
8? And for 6, you should have 9 spaces.
Yep. So there should be an aerial view of an alleyway because I was already approved for the parking, being that the law office right across the alleyway has ample parking. And like I said, I haven't had any issue with any of my tenants with parking or anything of that nature since I bought this property at all. The pictures that you see are pictures that I took after I was in the process of about to paint and do some touch-ups to it. But during that time, that's when I found that I needed to go through this process to properly get it licensed. I didn't want to go forward and put a whole bunch of money into, sparkling it up if it wasn't going to be approved. So that person does still live at that property. They've lived at that property since I got it. They lived in that unit since I got it.
So the idea is that the 3rd floor has what the city would see as 2 apartments.
Correct.
You have 1 tenant up there. 1 tenant will essentially rent 2 apartments, or are you splitting that up into 2 different?
Right now, there's 2 tenants up there. There's 1 tenant who has their own efficiency that was approved as the 5th unit, and then the other tenant, which is the picture that you see, that's separate. So I can't necessarily rent it as a 3rd floor 2-bedroom because it's 2 different entries. Or that's what I would do. That would be the easiest thing for me.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I'm a little confused on what this apartment's all about. I mean, looking at the pictures, when you say somebody's living there, but there's nothing in there that shows anybody's living in there right now.
Well, so like I said, at that time, the picture was taken. I moved their stuff out to the hallway. That person doesn't have much. It's a small area. So at that time, I moved their stuff out because I was going to be in the process of going in there and painting.
How do they live? I mean, there's no stove. I see maybe a small little refrigerator.
They have a small fridge. They use a stovetop, and they have the bathroom and everything and stuff inside of there.
Does that bathroom even have a door on it?
What's that?
Does that bathroom have a door on it?
It does not have a door on it, but that's something that I wanted to add. But again, I didn't know how to move forward.
Call this an apartment or even an efficiency. Sorry.
Monty, are you able to add anything to this? I feel like I too am somewhat confused.
I never been to this property or anything like this. The only thing I know of it is from when he went through the process with Nancy, and Nancy's the one that did everything to help him get approved for the 5 units and everything. So I came into this progress late, and I'm basically getting up to speed. But I'm agreeing with some of the pictures I'm seeing. It doesn't look like it's set up the right way. So
Doesn't look like an efficiency at all.
I mean, whatever I have to do to,
Yeah, but that should have been maybe done before. Or, I mean, if somebody's living in there, then you're acting in violation of the law.
that's why I'm here. I bought the property, and those people were living in there that way.
It's difficult because it looks like it's more like the attic, and that there's not even any, there's very narrow headroom. So while you might have floor footage, you don't have, I'm not sure how you measured to get a 700, I think you said what was the square footage that you're quoting?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but I did state it. But my worker went in there and measured at that time when I was thinking about renovating and painting and fixing things up. But the person that's living there, they're about 5'8" tall, and they have no problem moving around and living there.
This is a question, I guess, for Monty. When we measure, or when anyone measures square footage of a room, do we exclude anything that is when the ceiling is below a certain height? So, what?
We do not do that as inspector. That might be something for Steve Buffington, the BCO, because he would have to do a CFO inspection, and I think all that comes underneath a CFO inspection. But the regular inspectors, no, we do not look for that. Just mainly the BCO, assistant BCO, they're the ones who figure all that out.
Did you say there's, they can get out of this third floor apartment? Are there 1 or 2 exits from this third floor, 6th?
There's
efficiency?
one exit out of that.
One exit?
There's one exit out of there.
Are there separate utilities?
All of that stuff, when I purchased the property, was on the owner's meter. So that's stuff that I've been paying on my own since I had the property.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in the general building code, it's habitable space should be not less than 7 feet, and that's pretty short.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not measured that way. When an eave comes down that way, that section is stopped.
So what we were just talking about is when this ceiling gets to 7 feet, would be, you couldn't count that as part of your square footage, possibly.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, like I said, I purchased the property with those living conditions, and I'm not the type of person that would just, kick someone out on the street. I have a lot of clients and possible tenants that call me all the time. So, I want to make that area, look better, and that's what I was in the process of, trying to do. But again, I didn't want to spend thousands of dollars of painting and whatever I need to do to, if it would be, denied.
The problem is it may not be able to be an efficiency, period. There's just not enough room there. No matter what you could do to this floor, there's just not enough space. So I'm not the inspector, but I'm pretty sure that it's not livable as an efficiency at 700 square feet.
Because
Does
it's
the
probably not.
ceiling run the hallways, the room length?
On that one side, yes.
And that's the main room.
Yeah, that whole open space is just one area.
And then there's a bathroom area separate.
Which I wanted to add a door to keep that separate from the area where she has her bed and everything at, but, I have multiple properties here in York, so adding doors and, you know, small renovations is something that I'm capable of doing. I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything the right way.
Let me ask you another thing. On this picture, I'm looking at the picture that everybody's looking at with the angled roof. Over here, there's a little heater that's the heater coming out. I guess this is the front door. And then on your hand-drawn picture, it shows a heater. So I'm trying to get a perspective. The heater's over here in this corner. So if that's the end of the wall there, we're only looking at, it's basically like a lean-to. The wall is right here.
So there's 2 heaters inside of that area.
Right. I'm not doubting there's another heater. I see another heater on the other side, which we don't have a picture of. But I'm just saying the whole space is right there. This is one wall right here. This is the other wall. And over here is, we don't see it because there's no way to gauge it on this, but here's the other wall right here. The heater is right here. So this is the little kitchen that's there, and this is the tall wall. This is probably the tallest point in the whole room. And then right behind it is the bathroom. Is that correct?
It's
Right.
not exactly behind it, but yes, that whole area over there on that right side, is the ceiling is the same height from where you were all the way to the back.
I just think you're gonna have problems with getting it approved from the city. Because there's not enough space there to call it an efficiency. Based on what I'm seeing, because it's basically angled down from that side. Okay, I've seen enough.
I thought, you said something about, well, I forget what you said, but it didn't jive with my understanding. I thought you bought this property when it was zoned 2-unit, and you came before, and you got it approved for 5 units. Is that not correct?
No, that's not correct. I bought the property as a 5-unit.
You did?
To find out that it was only listed as a 3. So this entire time, I've been renting 5 units out, but those top 2 apartments, the 3rd floor and the one that you see, I've only been getting 1 income from it.
I mean, that makes sense in my mind that this is a 3-unit, and yeah, this is strange.
Who inspected this that said that you had to come before the zoning hearing board?
I got a call from, it wasn't inspected, no one inspected it who made me come to make the call. I got a call from the inspector for the city. What is her name? Michelle. That one of the inspectors drove past and seen an air conditioner in the window, and then that's when she said I needed to come and license that area as its own unit. So it's already been licensed as a 5-unit and inspected as a 5-unit. But when I got the call from Michelle, she said that I had to get that area that you see licensed as its own separate unit.
So, first and second floors are both 2 units?
Correct. There's 2 units on the first floor and the second floor. The 3rd floor has, I guess, 1 plus that one.
And if the architecture is like almost everything built between, I'd say, 1880 or 1870 and 1920, you have 2, first floor and second floor are long, and the 3rd floor is shorter. It sits at the front of the building. Is that fairly accurate?
The 3rd floor sits at the rear of the building, I would say.
I'm sorry?
The 3rd floor sits at the rear of the building, I would
it's
say.
At the rear?
That's the rear of the building.
I'm confused.
But
maybe you guys have a better understanding.
Is there anything I can do to clear it up?
Yeah, maybe. You got approval from this board to have 5 units.
Correct.
There's 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second floor. That's 4.
Yep.
There's presumably 1 permitted on the third floor.
Correct.
Why are you here for 6?
So the reason why I'm here for 6 is because that third floor unit, when I bought the property, that is the third floor.
Yeah.
That was considered the 5th unit. So that whole floor was being rented out as 1 unit of its own. So I'm here for 6 because I was told that the picture that you have need to be licensed as its own unit.
What? But it's not split into 2 units, is it?
Yeah, there's a separate entrance for this whole thing right here. That's
See,
why
I don't
there's a
have all
six.
the I don't have all the photos in my.
Well,
packet.
I mean,
I didn't get all the photos, unfortunately.
The problem is, I think the issue is this probably was part of the third floor apartment at one time, and somebody put a retaining wall in the middle to cut the place down in half and made it into a separate entrance place.
So
Because there's an entrance here.
So this is one, and then beyond.
No, that's the entrance. That's right here. The steps going up there go to that.
Yeah.
And that's how you get into it.
Okay. But then
There's another one that's got to be probably, and
we don't see
we don't see
a
it,
picture of that.
but there's obviously 3 floors to this place.
Yeah.
And I assume this is the back of the house. The other apartment's on the other side of where this heater is, this other wall.
Is the other? Is that right? Is,
That's right what he's saying. The other apartment is through
On the other
through
wall.
that door to the right.
Yep.
This.
The other apartment, if you go through this door and make a first right before you go down the steps, there's an apartment right over here.
That
So
looks basically just like this.
No, the other one is an actual. It's
Oh.
it's an efficiency, I guess you can call it. So when I don't know, the previous landlord, I guess, was just renting it out as 1 unit, so that's how I was renting it out because I purchased it as a 5-unit building, or I would have came to you guys asking for it to be a 6 unit, but I was renting it as a 5 this entire time.
The deed in here, and this is a question, so the deed looks like you bought it in 2021
That's correct.
from someone, it's a Grace, and it says she's a widow, but, so was she living there and renting, or, it doesn't even sound like, I don't know that it, I don't know that it was a rental before?
What, the property are you talking about?
I don't know. You were saying when you bought it, it was cut up into like 5 apartments?
Yeah, so when
did the previous owner really do that?
I'm not sure who did it, but when I purchased the property, it was 5 people and 5 tenants living in there, which is what got approved. So that's what I was renting it for the entire time. So I wouldn't have known to come for that 6 unit had I not gotten a call from Michelle of it having to be licensed as its own unit.
Well, I don't think,
I asked, when you come up the steps, and I'm just looking at this photo right here. When you come up these steps, and this is coming into this apartment, is there access to the other apartment?
Yes. Yes, there is.
That's a 5-bedroom. That's a 5-bedroom.
What? Well, can you repeat that? Can you go into the other apartment, or is there a door?
No, I'm asking, when you come to the top of the steps,
Mm-hmm.
so this is access coming into this apartment, the one we're talking about now.
Correct.
Okay, if you get to the top of the steps and you would swing from what we're looking at, swing a right, does that go right into the other apartment?
It doesn't go right into it. That apartment has a door to go inside that apartment as well as a fire escape. So it doesn't go exactly into the apartment. But if you walk out of that way, you can see the door of the separate licensed apartment, if that makes sense.
Okay, so in that aspect, if you come out of this one, go to the right, it has the door there. Where are the fire escapes at from that vicinity then?
The fire escape is on the rear side of the alleyway. So you can't see the fire escape from that area, but it's, if I could come up there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at this wall here.
Here?
This wall here.
Uh-huh.
The fire escape is directly outside of that window.
Out of here.
Correct. Go to the second entrance of that unit.
So let me ask you this. This is connected to your house.
Correct.
That other apartment is connected to your house.
Correct.
That is five apartments. That's not 6. If anything, in order when you get your inspection done, if anything, that needs to be rented as one, and there needs to be access from this to the other in order to gain that space or gain access.
Yeah,
But there's no way that this is going to be considered an efficiency.
So is that
It's not enough room for it.
So
to
would that
an
be a
efficiency.
third floor 2-bedroom then?
Something, yeah.
I don't think
Somebody put a wall in the middle and that's what you got.
I don't think we have enough information to do a 6 or tell you what that is up there, to be honest with you. But I definitely don't have enough information to make it a 6.
So
you have 2 efficiencies up there right now?
I have, yes, including that place. It's
So
only
this
2.
is an efficiency. The other one is also an efficiency.
Correct.
So actually, what you have up there is a 1-bedroom apartment.
It's been divided
This is
into 2.
this probably was the bedroom to that other part of the apartment.
If that's the case.
There's no way that this right here is going to fall into, to be approved for an efficiency. That's not with that slanted roof.
Yeah.
You have to have headspace the whole ways across a squared off room.
Gotcha.
With that leaning like that, no.
And that's why I'm here, because if that's the case, is that considered, like, can I rent the 3rd floor out as a 2-bedroom apartment then, because it's 2 bedrooms?
I think what you have to do is what you were approved for, which sounds like you have 5 apartments approved, correct?
Right.
So you got to stick with what you got, 5 apartments.
5 dwelling units.
I mean, you could, in theory, the 3rd floor could have two bedrooms in it,
Right.
but it's still considered one apartment.
It just needs to be inspected for
need
2
access.
You
bedrooms.
need to have access to that
From
back
one to
room
the- one
from your
part to the
front
other.
room. So from the 3rd floor apartment that was approved, there should be some type of access to this efficiency you're calling it.
There is access. You walk out of the door and it's right there.
Okay, well then
It
that
has
should
to be a flowing access.
yeah, it actually has to have something like another door in between that wall.
I'm not sure what it needs, but I just don't have enough information for 6 apartments. I just don't.
Yeah.
I agree.
So is there a time limit that I have to tell these people to be out by, since they've been here?
I think Adam, kind of hit the nail on the head. This board is not the codes office. Okay, you're going to have to work with the codes office to figure out, what you need to do, and and go from there in terms of licensing and things like that. But basically, what this board is here to do tonight is to determine whether you meet the criteria for a variance to permit an additional dwelling unit.
And I think we're pretty much in consensus that to deny that variant. And how you handle that situation depends on you, what you and your tenants want to do. I don't know, I have no idea who they are, gender or anything else, but ask them if, 2 unrelated persons can share a dwelling unit legally. Ask them if they'd like to try roommating for a time and see how that works and split the rent. They might jump at the chance, but but I certainly don't have enough information. I might be willing to consider it if you came back with a floor plan of the entire third floor, but I'm not promising you. But unless I saw that, I don't feel that I understand from this rough sketch what.
Yeah, I was only instructed to provide the floor plan of the unit that.
Sorry?
Speaking of.
Yeah, and listen, you know, I think that this came to us, frankly, in a poor state. And that's, sir, frankly, partially on you, but I don't know if it's totally on you. You know, I mean, I think that you need to be working with the city. And, you know, a simple phone call telling you to come here is maybe not doing you any great favors. That's just my thought.
Excuse me, but it couldn't have been a simple phone call for him to get called in here because it doesn't work that way.
And fair enough. I thank you for clarifying that. But you just need to go back and work with the city to figure this out.
Yeah, I'm ready to move to deny a variance to add a sixth unit to an existing licensed 5 unit as defined in section 1304.01-1.02 at 28 North Pine Street in the UN2 zoning, or is it UN1 zoning district.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to deny the variance. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent?
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman?
Aye.
Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also say, I don't think you were helped by the zoning board, it's the zoning officer's office on putting this package together. And so
Yeah.
next time, and I think that's what our solicitor is
That-
saying also,
Yes.
that your package was rough, and I'll just say it that way, and you should have had a little more help from other people from the city hall.
Well, yeah, I wish I did, because if you check the emails, you can see I've been in constant communication trying to figure it out, so. Thanks anyway.
The next case is Kate. Do you need a break? You sure? Yeah. The next case is case number 50-2023-Z-V/SE. The applicant and owner of the subject property is Isamar Morel. Did I say that correctly? I did?
It's Isamar, but.
Isamar. Thank you.
Yeah.
Of 213 North Broad Street, York, Pennsylvania. The subject property is located at 252 Roosevelt Avenue, York, Pennsylvania, which address is located in the UN2 Urban Residential Neighborhood Zoning District of the City of York. Applicant seeks several variances and a special exception to permit a multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use. First, the applicant seeks a definitional variance to permit a multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use from a single-family residence. Next, the applicant seeks a variance to permit up to 3 dwelling units, which exceeds allowable density requirements of the zoning ordinance. Further, the applicant requests a variance to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 5 to 2 off-street parking spaces. Finally, the applicant seeks a special exception to permit a multifamily dwelling conversion from a different use, a use permitted by special exception in the UN2 zoning district. The application was reviewed by the planning staff of the City of York. The planning staff recommends denial of the requested variances related to the definition of multifamily dwelling, conversion from a different use, and that which seeks a reduction in the parking requirements. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance related to density, and the planning staff recommends approval of the special condition conditioned on approval of all of the variance requests. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on December 11th. By way of the unanimous vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variances and the requested special exception. The record before the board this evening consists of the application itself, the deed to the subject property, an aerial photo of the subject property, 3 pages of hand-drawn floor plans, and 19 pages of photos of the subject property.
Okay, so yeah, I bought the property in June and I haven't done anything to it. So I do want to split it. On the first floor, I want to do a 1-bedroom, and on the second floor, a 2-bedroom, as well as on the third floor.
2-bedroom on
yeah.
2-bedroom on both the first and, or I'm sorry, on both the second and third floor.
Mm-hmm. And it does have, the garage has 3 parking spaces, and then the front of the house has, street parking, but.
Are you living in it yourself?
No, I literally bought it. Originally, I was just gonna remodel it and sell it as a single family home, but then I figured I can just, given like the size of it, because it really is 6 bedrooms already, I feel it will be better to just keep it as a rental and just split it, just to have passive income monthly.
Do you have the dimensions for the different rooms that are in your package on your, any dimensions?
Not for the different rooms, just the overall size of the home.
What is the square footage of
I put it on.
And I'm sorry, ma'am, could you just stand up and could you just tell us your name?
Yeah.
Hi, sorry. Ingrid Morel. The property has like 2,900. And each room looks like can be like 12 by 16, and like other one can be. The big one where we're planning to do third floor have like 12 by 16 is each room.
Yeah, she's worked on like a lot of properties. She's been remodeling for a long time. So that's how she remembers like the size of the room just by like seeing it.
Yeah, we planned that because the property is so big, and how I see the property have plenty of space on the hallway. The hallway is not simply hallway, and the end of the hallway have like 10 by 12 space where we can do like a kitchen or bathroom or closet over there. And that's why we decided to. Because it's the big house for be just one house. Like the utility right now for you can be in one in one house.
Of that size.
And that size is too expensive now. And because normally when we are remodeling one house, last year we sold I think it was last year we sold the property in Pine Street. And into the property is our place. I have to pay like $800 for your gas, and the property was empty, And then I say, people thinking about that when you say they probably is not, when you want to sell the property, and you have to thinking about is there not a lot of people, you have less customer to can buy, because it's too big, and then we prefer to keep the property for rent and divide it in 3 apartments because for the bill, too expensive bill right now, gas, utility, electric is higher right now, and that's why we prefer to do a small apartment that can be for 2 or 3 people, each one.
Have you had like an architect look at this? I mean, do you have enough space to actually put 2 apartments on each floor?
We don't planning to do because the house has divided already. We don't planning to do any broken in the property. We just planning to probably support the structure, because for example we have one hallway, it's empty right there. I plan to do like a bathroom right there. I just have to do like a piece of
The drywall?
or wall. Yeah, you know, I don't need architect for that right now. And I usually use architect for when I get like the property from the city of York, because the property is too really bad, in bad condition. And yeah, that's when I use architect. But right now, we just use ¿cómo que se llama esta cosa? Contractor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we can show you some properties that we actually just, like before and afters that we've repaired and remodeled to sell, but we're gonna still do the same thing for like our tenants.
Yeah, I get a property for 221 and 223 South Harley from the city of York in 2000, I think was 2019 or 20. And that property was really in bad condition, and we doing a really good job over there. And I just mentioned this because that's from the city, or from the city of York. But we do a couple, like probably 15 or 16 or 20 houses. We started from the low, and we buy one and sell it and repair it and come back to buy another, and that's what we do. We try to be like ¿cómo se llama there are one lady on the city when all the time when I receive message from her, she say for the better city, for better York, that's what we try to do in better York, better place for everybody. Mm-hmm. Not for only us. I doing the best I can for my customer. And believe me, when I try rent something, my customers stay there forever. They don't move because I doing the best people looking for.
Parking again. You have a garage in the back, is that correct?
Yeah, it's detached. If you could see.
Right, it says, I can see it in the backyard. How many spaces are in there?
No, we have a garage. They have the garage is yeah.
On top of it, it has like a space that we're not using.
Okay.
Now, are these, I'll wait until you're back at the podium. These pictures you just distributed, they are not from 252 Roosevelt.
No. These are properties that I actually,
Are these?
one of them I already sold and another one is currently on the market.
Are any of these pictures from South Hartley Street, 221 and?
Everything that's on the South Hartley is on the, not South Hartley, no, that's a rental. Oh, I'm sorry. No, the South Hartley, that one's just a rental. So, yeah, we haven't took pictures of it. It's been rented for more than 5 years, Ma.
2019.
Now,
We had it from
I believe
same time.
Blanda Nace was here earlier, but couldn't stay. And I believe he commended you folks for, you did rehab houses on South Hartley Street, 221 and 223, I believe. And I commend you for that. It's kind of in my neighborhood. But I have some concerns about 3 units in this property on Roosevelt Avenue is very, to me, unusual. It's a duplex, but it's not just your ordinary, build a house, a square box, and chop it in half. I mean, there's a picture of the front of the house, and it's unique. It's very unusual, and it's in a part of Roosevelt Avenue that at one time was probably one of the prestigious neighborhoods.
Yes.
And now on the subject of parking, and that is always one of my major concerns. You have, it says that you can provide 2 off-street parking spaces, and where are they? In the garage in back?
Well, it will pretty much be optional because they have the front and then the back, but the garage has the 3 parking spaces.
Well,
But they can park in front of, in the street, you know.
So you have 3 parking spaces
In the garage, that will be already there, yeah.
So 3 parking spaces would make it easier to approve 2 units, because that 3 parking spaces are required for 2 units. So I'm looking at, I don't know about what 3rd floor egress is required for a 3rd floor apartment. And
It's not our job.
well, is it not our job? Okay, is that code? So,
It's good, so, I mean, they
Okay.
have to get approved to have it.
so that's something to factor in.
I want to clarify something. I don't think it's you're calling it a duplex. It's an attached house to the other one, okay? So this is the full house. If you look at the pictures, even the back lot, it's attached to another house on the other side, just like my house is on Market Street. So it's a separate house.
And there's a plaque on that house, on the right-hand side of the house, there's a plaque, a metal plaque, next to the window.
I'll have to see at what picture, which
Right,
picture.
historic home.
Yeah, right.
Well, are you, were you referencing this photo? Yeah. And
And then if you look at the back view, you can see the whole house right behind it. It's attached to the next house over. Look at this one.
on this,
No, right here. Here's the back. It's attached to this house.
Yeah.
So this is attached to this other house. It's not a
Yes.
duplex.
And-
They're not
and-
exactly the same houses.
Well-
Duplex is always the same on the other side.
Uh,
It's just an attached house.
the other side is the same as this side, in the front.
No, it can't be.
Hold on, everybody, sorry. She has to be taken down, so we can't have multiple sidebars going on, so just, one at a time.
I saw it. I saw the house this afternoon, and the other side of it is like this. It's very unusual to have something that distinctive looking of that front porch duplicated. But I saw it. I wasn't.
I just saw a picture of it. You're correct.
And-
It's a duplex, but it's 2 separate homes. Okay, so it's.
Well, yeah,
So-
that is.
But I'm
a
not
du-
sure what the issue is with them making it into apartments and the differences. It's. You lost me on what your point was that it was a duplex.
Oh, I was just commenting, I'm not sure why, but I think that's very unusual architecture for a duplex. Now, aside from that, they have the 3 parking spaces off-street that would be required for 2 units.
But not for 3.
I'm sorry?
They need 5 parking units parking spaces for 3 units.
For
and they're-
3 units.
Correct,
yes.
and they're having 3 units, so that there is a variance request for, and it's a little the wording on it is wrong, but the variance reads that a variance to require 3 off-street parking spaces to be reduced to 2. That's not what they're asking, so I'm not sure where this came from, but it's not right.
It's reduced by 2.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they required, maybe they required 5 off-street parking spaces, okay, to be reduced by 2, okay?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Any other discussion?
I would say that the picture of the back, I'm just talking out as to what I see on the picture from the rear. It looks like the neighboring property is a multi-unit based on the fire escape that's on the back and the different porches. Unknown when they converted that, but if the properties are similar on the inside, that would indicate they have the space for it.
Have you been into the other place next door?
No.
You may want to check it out. I mean, it may be something that helps you out with how to design. And it appears you know what you're doing with the other pictures I saw, but you may just be able to do a mirror image of whatever their other, if they've already converted it to apartments next door, like.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice that they
Yeah.
had it split into.
Good catch. Yeah.
Because probably, because it has
Because the
fire
fire
escape,
escape's coming out the back.
may not be guaranteed.
I'm looking it up. It has 3 apartments, 3 legal units.
Okay.
In the neighboring property.
Right. Okay. So that may be something to just check out. So.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
I wonder what kind of parking, if they have a parking variance or if it's just a very old conversion that they don't even, before a zoning ordinance, set the parking requirements. Because if they only have 3 parking spaces but need 5,
That doesn't pertain to this case.
it's just density in the neighborhood, if we're giving exceptions to every house to have,
We don't know.
you know, it depends how many are.
We don't know, Elspeth.
We don't know.
So don't
So-
speculate. Okay, I'm ready to
Okay.
move on. Let's do it, folks.
I
Any
would
other
say that
discussions?
I would say that I would have preferred to see measurements, floor measurements. The next time, right, we don't know how large these bedrooms are. I mean, we're guessing from pictures,
Yeah, they're.
but people bring us diagrams with measurements. The room is 10 feet by 12 feet or
Yeah, because
8
we
by
actually.
10 or.
We actually ended up doing that the same day because there were some other issues we were having with the application. So we just met the deadline, so we had to draw it up. We didn't have time to get it professionally done, unfortunately, yeah.
Pretty massive bedrooms.
Yeah, 2,900 square feet in the house is a big house, too.
But it's not your first application for.
It is my first application for a
Multi-unit?
multi-unit, yes.
Okay,
everything I always just repair and sell. I'm just flipping.
Single families,
Yep.
repair and sell.
Mm-hmm.
And did you think about that for this property? You said you did think about that, but declined to do that?
Given, interest rates and a lot of things that's going on right now, and then I felt like it would be the best use. Because there's really not a lot in York, like a lot of apartments that I see, especially what I'm trying to bring, like a little more like luxury kind of something really nice. So that's my reason to I'm going to keep this. This is a nice house. It has a nice yard. Once we fix it, work into it, I feel like it will be a great place for not just, there's lawyers and other people that can be right in the city and live in a nice apartment.
Right.
So, and I feel like that has a lot of potential.
If you've had experience converting, renovating single-family homes and then selling them, then there may be a lot of larger single families who need a lot of space, and there aren't necessarily a lot of those available either. So
We have 5-bedroom houses, the same how we remodel, that they're on the market, and they've been on the market for a while because of the interest rates. A lot of people can't get approved for it, and it's just taking time to sell. I don't know what other reasons are why it's, kind of slow right now, but it slowed down since November of last year when we first originally started. And a lot of people come to us about, can you rent this house to us? So, we want to be able to have rentals available, more rentals. So.
May I assume that you lovely, patient people are not here to comment on this case?
Oh, I could, but no.
You could.
That's the last case.
Ask Adam or Ellsbury.
Yeah. I think we can, I think we can close, and I'll be brief. It's a close call for me, but I will not support anything in the future without floor plans. I don't care if they're hand-drawn instead of professional, but approximate dimensions of rooms. I mean, these are momentous decisions that we're making that have effect on, the parking, you know, I mean, I certainly wouldn't do it casually to approve 3 units in a building that would probably be better with 2. It used to almost always be a 1-bedroom apartment on the first floor and the second and third and smaller third floor, which I suspect this might be, a 2-bedroom, a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment. Because I'm talking to neighbors, I'm talking to people in these neighborhoods, and the story is always the same about the parking. At 10 in the morning or 2:30 in the afternoon, you can find a parking place. Evenings and weekends, ugh. But
I'm going to just, you might still be, are you still working on a thought?
Nope.
No, I feel the same. I prefer to have dimensions. I find it easier to approve a 2-unit when you've got this 3 parking, and we don't have to give an exception to a parking situation. So, and these types of houses, while it is large, what's nice for the neighborhood and that house might be 2 units versus the 3. Now, maybe there are 3 next door, but I still, you know, without seeing the dimensions, it's hard to know. I guess you can fit it, but just because you can fit it doesn't necessarily always mean you should. And a larger 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartment on the second and third floor, a single apartment on the first floor, that would have been an easy one for me. And so this one's a little hard for me because it's 3 units, and I know we do it, but that's harder for me, and I'll just stop right there.
I'm going to move to approve variance to the definition of multifamily conversion from a different use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002A at 252 Roosevelt Avenue in the UN2 zoning district, and this is case 50-2023-Z-V-SE.
Second. It's been moved by Mr. Nugent and seconded by Williams to approve the variance to the definition requirement. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent?
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman? Aye. Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye.
I want to move to approve a dimensional variance for multifamily conversion to a different use found in section 1304.01-1.02.002 to include conversion of a single-family home into 3 units for the property at 252 Roosevelt Avenue in the UN2 zoning district.
I will second that with a comment that I think that motion is technically misworded, because I think what we're doing is granting relief from a dimensional variance because the proposed density is greater than permitted by the zoning ordinance, not less. than permitted by the zoning ordinance. I second the motion as it was made. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins.
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent.
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman.
Aye.
Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp.
Nay.
Bupp, nay. And Williams, aye.
I'll move to approve a variance to the required, is it 5 off-street parking spaces to be reduced to 3 found in section 1304.021. That's 1304.01-1.02.002 for the property at 252 Roosevelt Avenue in the UN2 zoning district.
Second. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins.
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent.
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman.
Aye.
Holman, aye. I'm sorry, that was aye. Yes. Ms. Bupp.
Nay.
Bupp, nay. And Williams, nay.
I'll move to approve a special exception to allow multifamily use as defined in section 1304.01-1.02.002 at 252 Roosevelt Avenue in the UN2 zoning district.
Second. It's been moved by Mr. Nugent and seconded by Williams to approve the special exception for use as a multifamily. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins.
Aye.
Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent.
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman.
Aye.
Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp.
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye. Good luck.
you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The last case,
Not least.
oh, certainly not least.
I said not least.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was just.
You're agreeing with
I
me?
was
Thank you.
agreeing, yeah,
Thank
of
you,
course.
It happened.
The last case is case number 51-2023-Z-V. The applicant is Casey French of 459 West Market Street, York, Pennsylvania. The owner of the subject property is Peter Donkos of 839 Mackenzie Street, York, Pennsylvania. The subject property is located at 839 Mackenzie Street, which address is located in the RS2 Single Family Detached Residential Conservation District of the City of York. Applicant seeks a variance to relieve the applicant of a setback requirement so that the applicant can add an elevator to the subject property. The application was reviewed by the planning staff of the City of York. The planning staff recommends approval of the requested variance. The case was heard by the City of York Planning Commission on December 13th, 2023. By way of unanimous vote, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the requested variance. The record before the board this evening consists of the application itself, the deed to the subject property, a site plan of the subject property, narrative and photographic descriptions of the property.
Thank you. And in full disclosure, I want to acknowledge, Mr. Dankos, there is an S on the end of your name.
An S?
S, D-A-N.
No, just O.
Danko.
Danko.
Because, well, see, on the variance reviews, they gave you an S on the end of the name.
Well, that was rude.
That was rude. But in full disclosure, I want it on the record that I believe it was this morning that I sent you a Facebook friend request.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I don't.
Which I hope you will consider, but what I do here,
It depends what you do.
but what I do here this evening will have no bearing on that. Ms. French.
Good evening. Thank you for taking this into consideration. I'm Casey French. I am an architectural consultant. I carried an architectural license up until recently and have semi-retired, so I'm only a consultant at this point in time. Mr. Danko approached me in reference to putting an elevator on the side of his house. What I'm doing as a consultant is I'm helping people remain in their homes as they age for as long as possible by renovating properties and making them fit so that they don't have to leave. For those that know Mr. Danko, he's a known artist. The house has been renovated by him with a lot of loving care to put an elevator within the building. It's a narrow building, and it would disturb an awful lot of wonderful architecture, and it wouldn't work. Structurally, we'd have to do an awful lot of work to it. Having walked around the building multiple times myself, we're on a corner lot, so that got rid of one side. The backyard has a wonderful porch out in the back, and and to land the elevator on the second floor would land it in the master bedroom that's off of that. So, and then the front of the house, you don't want to put an elevator shaft in the front of the house if you can help it. It's just not conducive, especially with the wonderful porch that's there. There are photos of all of this. So it comes to us that we have a side setback, side yard. We are a detached home where we felt that it was a perfect place to put it. There's already a chimney. There's already a couple of additions that have been put onto the house that are already going into the setback line. And so we've proposed to put this 5x5 box. It might be a little bit bigger, but we're going to go up to the setback line and build a box to enclose an elevator lift, a wheelchair lift that will land in the basement, possibly. We're still investigating. The first floor would be in the living room adjacent to the fireplace, and the third floor would be up into an office space. So this is keeping our population in place. They're not moving out of York because they can't get to the second floor and are looking for a ranch. And they're both Susan and Peter are very committed to the city of York and have been a big plus, and I'd hate to see them move to the suburbs. Peter, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Actually, no, because she said a lot. But I've looked at real estate, and if we bought a new home on one level with the square footage we have now, it would be a lot more expensive than putting an elevator in. And I just thought an elevator would be a really good idea, because I'd sure like to have a house that I would be able to have access to the whole thing instead of one floor.
Mr. Danko, how do the neighbors feel about this? Good relationships there?
Yes, I actually talked to the neighbor next to him where in between the houses where they're going to put the elevator, and he's all for it. He don't care about the setbacks or none of that.
Great, thank you.
And we're not asking for an extra parking space. I couldn't resist.
Any other questions?
One more. So the 5x5 box, will that mean does that leave you, excuse me, 1 foot of space to get between the houses, or
no
space?
There's about 10 to 12 feet.
Well, it's 12.
12, okay.
House to house.
House to house. Well,
so you divide that in half.
You divide that in half. Well, we got to find
ish.
We will get our property lines. We will find out where that is, and we will build to that. A 5 by.
I don't think we have to build to the property line.
No, build to what we will build to what we need to make it work, is what I'm saying. Okay, the lift, because it's a lift and it's not an elevator, because it's not ADA, it doesn't have to be huge. It has to fit a wheelchair, and you've all seen the wheelchair lifts. We can go as small as 3 feet. I don't think that's overly comfortable for somebody. So we're going to take advantage of putting what we can once we get that property line. But the expenditure to get a surveyor out there to find the line and everything else that goes along with it, we came to the conclusion, working off of Google Maps and other things. Like I said, I'm a licensed architect. I've got onto Google Maps, looked at the city's plans and stuff. It looks like the line is pretty much in the middle. I just need to get it confirmed.
It probably is, and the reason I ask is more just access for the fire department to the rear of either property. If you, if the neighbor on the other side decides to build a fence and they build it right up to your box,
Right.
and then there's no access from that side of the property. Now, they've got the whole street on the other side, so it's not a problem, but I just.
You got an alley behind, you've got plenty of access for the fire department to get in there.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
I'm sorry you didn't bring the lovely lady along who was with you before the planning commission, because she almost brought tears to my eyes talking about York and why you want to stay in York. And it could have been, if we'd filmed that, it could be a commercial for the city. And wow. I would be honored to, if I may, make this motion. In the case of application number 51-2023-Z-V regarding the property at 839 Mackenzie Street, I move that we approve a variance for relief from setbacks to add an elevator as presented in the application.
You might just want to, could you clarify which side setback that is, just so that we're clarifying
Which side of the house?
Yeah.
It's the north side. It's
North.
not the alley side.
Okay, so amended.
I'll second.
Was that Adam? It's been moved by Williams, seconded by Mr. Nugent to approve the variance from the setbacks. Calling for the vote, Ms. Jenkins? Aye. Jenkins, aye. Mr. Nugent?
Aye.
Nugent, aye. Mr. Holman? Aye. Holman, aye. Ms. Bupp?
Aye.
Bupp, aye. And Williams, aye. Sorry we made you wait so long, but I hope you found the first case at least interesting.
I know.
I wished I could have seen the pictures of what everybody was talking about.
I'll give you this whole package if you want. It would be nice if we had, the pictures on the screen or something. Mr. Danko, you said you're an artist?
He's an artist.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
What type I think I have one of your paintings in my house.
I'm sorry?
I think I have one of your paintings of I have a Danko in my house. I'm positive. I bought it somewhere around here. I think naked person? I hope so.
Don't laugh.
I have one of those, but it's not Danko.
He runs the figure drawing.
I run figure drawing for.
There's a figure drawing class every Wednesday.
Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas.